Hello and welcome. So, given the triangle and information below, solve for each variable. Write your answer is a decimal rounded to third decimal place. Alright, keep in mind diagrams not scale. Alright, so first off, we have on the left side some links. On the right side, we have a triangle. Now, when we're looking at this, there's a couple of things to note. We're looking at similar triangles specifically. Okay, for similar triangles, you're going to be creating proportions. And proportions are written of each triangle that we have. Well, how many triangles do you see right here? 3. We have 1 is this little triangle, 2 is the medium triangle, and then we have the whole thing itself is also a triangle. So you have 3 similar triangles here. So first thing I would recommend is we're going to put the information on the diagram, right? But it's also going to be helpful to write 3 separate triangles like down below in your work. Make sure you can tell each triangle apart, write them all in the same orientation, so it'll help you a lot when it comes to writing those proportions. Alright, so first off, let's get all the information down. So A to C, this section right here, we're told is 15. Okay, and you'll notice that that is the hypotenuse across from the right angle. That'll be this side right there. That is 15 on your diagram. Okay, and now on the next piece, we're told A to D, which is this little section right there, is going to be 5. And then that, because your right angle is also right here, so that's going to be the short side of your smallest triangle. So right here is right there. So that is 5. Okay. And then finish it off. If we know that's 15 and 5, then this clearly has to be 10 right there. And we're also told that DC, that section right there, is 10, so huzzah. Okay, and then from there, that'll just fill in the last piece of information, right? This is your medium triangle, and it's going to be the longer side, right? Which means that's going to be that side right there, 10. Okay, and then from there, we're going to be finding 3 pieces of information. We're told to find B to C, which I'm going to call that X for now. So there's X, which is going to be the hypotenuse, that side right there, and it's also going to be the longer side of the large triangle, so X is there. And then we keep going. BD I'm going to call Y, just for the sake of calling it Y, why not? Alright, and that's going to be this little section, whoops, let's not use green, right here. Alright, which will be the short section of your middle triangle and the long side of your little one. So there's Y, and there's Y. Alright, and last one, I'm going to call that Z, and that'll be from A to B, and that will be the section right there, which will be the short side of your big triangle and the hypotenuse of your little triangle. So that's C, and that's C. Okay, and now through all of that, we have filled in all of our information right there, and it's just a matter of solving with proportions now. Okay, so pick a variable you want to solve for, the x, the y, or the z. Okay, and then try setting up proportions for whatever it is you pick. I'm just going to go down the list. I'm just going to start with x, and then go to y, then to z. So in order to solve for this, that's alright. So first thing we want to do is we want to figure out, alright, where do we have x's? Which triangles, which of the 3 triangles do we see x's on? Well, we see it on the middle and the large, and those are the 2 triangles you're going to use for proportions. Alright, so now you decide you want to go from small, the medium triangle to the big one, or the big one to the medium. I like going bigger to smaller, so I'm going to go big side. I'm going to start with x, which will correspond to the same thing on the other triangle, so x over 10. And that's why you want to set up your triangles in the same orientation here, is because it lets you just do that side-to-side comparison. Alright, and then same thing, now you can use either z over y or 15 over x. Alright, now remember you want to solve for x's, so using the sides with x is what you want to do. So then we do 15 over x. Now it is 15 over x, not x over 15, because we used x before, so it has to stay consistent, big to small. big to small. Okay? All right, and that's it. Those are your proportions for x, and now you are set to solve for x. Okay, fractions of division, undo division with multiplication. I'm going to multiply x on both sides, and I'm also going to multiply 10 on both sides. So that way it'll cancel out the 10s and the x's, and then you have x times x squared, right? X times x squared, and then 15 times 10, which is 100 and, oops, no square root, 150. Okay, so x squared equals 150. Now, you can solve this a couple of ways, right? But what I would recommend doing is you already have your x alone, and it's squared. How do you undo squares? Square root. Don't forget your plus minus, right? But in this case, think about it, we're talking about lengths. Can this be a negative number? No, lengths can't be negative. So while there is technically a plus or minus, you only need the positive square root, right? Now, you don't need to simplify this. Remember, the problem said to write your answer as a decimal. So you only need square root of 150. Don't bother simplifying it. You don't need to. Okay? And we want to go to the third decimal place, so it'll be 12.247. Because the 4 behind it will round down. So 12.247. So 12.247. Done. X out of the way. I'm going to go a little bit faster when I solve for the other two. Let's do the y's. You see y's in these two triangles. Specifically, these are all of your sides with y's. Okay, I'm going to do big to small again. So y over 5 equals 10 over y. Because staying consistent, large to small, large to small. You want the sides with y's in there, so that's why we grabbed those ones. Alright, multiply by a y and a 5. Both sides, so the y's cancel on the right, 5's on the left, and you get y squared equals 50. Take the square root. Technically there's plus minus, but you only need the plus, so y equals square root of 50. Okay, so then we come back, square root 50, we get 7.071. So we have 7.071, done. Okay, now we have that last but not least moment, right, which is solving for z. You see z in the first and last triangle. Here's a z. There's its corresponding side. Here's a z. Here's its corresponding. So then set up your proportions. 15 over z, big to small, equals z over 5, big to small. All right, multiply by 5 and z. All right, 5's cancel there, z's cancel here, and you're left with 5 times 15, which is 75 on the left, equals z times z, z squared. Undo squares of square roots. Only need the positive though, so z is the positive square root of 75. So 8.660. Okay. Honestly, it's not too hard. It's not too difficult in terms of algebra. The biggest thing that's going to trip a lot of you guys up is probably going to be how to set up those triangles to get the corresponding sides down. Alright, but that's all there is to it. So, thank you for watching.